Hi, everyone. If you follow along on your taxonomy informational text, I will kindly read to you some of these very big vocabulary words. Okay. And the goal is to remember it is a hard concept, but just to gain knowledge by the end of today and say, I feel a lot better than I did at the beginning of class. Okay. Taxonomy is the science of classifying living organisms. They could be creatures who meet the 5 characteristics of life. Classifying organisms is important because we are currently in a mass extinction, which means a large die off of different species. What happens if a species goes extinct, which means it doesn't exist anymore, before it's known to science? Organisms are placed into broad categories and then into more specific groups based on their features. The greater the number of categories two organisms share, the more similar they are to one another. For example, a panther and a house cat share more classification levels than a house cat and a tree. Scientists currently group organisms into 5 kingdoms: plants, animals, fungi, protists, and monarans. Organisms in the same kingdom have similarities in how they obtain, which means receive, energy from their environments, and the number of cells, which are their basic unit of life that make up their body. The categories after kingdom, from broad to more specific, include phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. The animal kingdom consists of multicellular, which means made of many cell organisms. Their cells are considered eukaryotic. In eukaryotic cells, the DNA, which is the genetic material, is stored in an envelope called a nucleus. Most animals must move to obtain their food. Because animals consume their other organisms for energy, they are heterotrophs. Animal cells do not have a cell wall. The plant kingdom consists of mostly multicellular organisms. Plant cells are also eukaryotic, meaning their DNA is stored in a nucleus. Plants are sessile, meaning they cannot change locations to avoid a predator to find food. Plants are considered autotrophs as they transform sunlight energy into chemical energy through that process called photosynthesis. Plant cells contain a cell wall and chloroplast for converting, which means changing that sunlight into glucose, which is a specific sugar, in their food. The fungi kingdom consists of mostly multicellular organisms, like mushrooms, although some are unicellular, like yeast. Fungi have cells protected by a cell wall. The cell wall is made up of a different substance than the cell wall of a plant cell. They are eukaryotic, meaning their DNA is contained in a nucleus. Fungi are sessile like plants, but cannot make their own food from sunlight. Therefore, they are considered heterotrophs. Fungi must then absorb nutrients from other organisms, either living or dead. The Monera kingdom consists of single-celled organisms like bacteria. Bacteria are less complex than the other 4 kingdoms described. Bacteria are prokaryotic, not eukaryotic, making them very different from the other kingdoms. The genetic material in a bacteria's cell is not contained in a nucleus. Bacteria cells do contain a cell wall, but it's made up of a different substance than plant and fungi cell walls. Bacteria cells are much smaller than eukaryotic cells. Organisms who share many similar characteristics and similar categories. Compare the classification of the house cat, Felis catus, and the panther, which is Panthera onca. Everything is similar except for their genus and species. Therefore, there's many more similarities, but still a few differences between that house cat and panther.